The coaching job remains open. Our Adrian Wojnarowski reporting that LA has interviewed former Warriors coach and ESPN analyst Mark Jackson, along with former Blazers coach Terry Stotts. JJ, who do the Lakers need to hire to vault themselves back into contention?
That's a good joke. It's a good question. If you're joking around, contention?
Yeah, contention.
The Lakers are not contending next season. That's not going to happen. And we broke down all the different trade scenarios last week. They're not going to be a contender. They're pretty much stuck next year.
Even with the big three.
So I think they should figure out a way to hire Steph Curry as a player coach, maybe Paul George. Just fill out a coaching staff with current players. That's the only way they're going to get back to contention. There's no way this core group, those three guys, with their lack of draft picks, with no real money in free agency, they're not in contention next year. It doesn't matter who the coach is.
Let me say this, and I'm going to be very serious when I'm saying this, okay? We've talked about the Lakers a lot. People have lamented mom and pop shop operation, all of this other stuff. I'm done with all of that. I got love for Jeannie Buss. She can trust whoever she wants to trust, whether that's Kurt Rambis, Linda Rambis, or whatever the case may be, so be it. Rob Pelinka, there's a few agents that have gotten jobs as a GM and are in position to make those basketball decisions. It's on him now, okay? What I would tell you that the Lakers need, they need an offensive-minded as opposed to a defensive-minded coach, because Frank Vogel was more defense than offense. They need an offensive-minded coach. But more importantly than that, they need a strong-willed coach that sits up there and is capable of telling the organization, you run the organization, I coach. You cannot have a situation where the coach feels disempowered, where he has to play certain dudes because he's going to hear from management. He has to make sure dudes get their minutes. He's going to hear from management, or he's reticent about, benching a dude when he knows that dude doesn't deserve to be playing, et cetera, et cetera. You have to have the kind of coach that's capable of getting in the face of players and saying, look, you ain't getting it done. I will remind you, the story is old. Ty Lue is in the finals coaching the Cleveland Cavaliers. LeBron James is balling. And who does Ty Lue call out, according to reports, at halftime in the locker room? LeBron James. LeBron James having a pretty damn good half. If you look at the numbers, he said, you ain't doing enough. We need more. If you don't do it, we ain't going to win the championship. You got to have somebody that's capable of doing that. You got to have somebody that's like a Pat Riley, that's able to look at a Charles Smith in the 90s when Charles Smith walks into the locker room and with his clothes on, according to the book, Blood in the Garden. And Pat Riley asked him, if we needed you for 5 minutes, could you, with everything on the line, could you give it to us? Charles said, sure. He said, then what the F are you doing with your clothes on instead of your uniform? You got to have a coach that can have that kind of attitude and can disseminate that kind of message to the players. We got to stop.
And where's it going to get them?
Listen, me personally, I think Mark Jackson could be that guy.
No, I'm saying, where is it going to get them? So say they get the great coach that you want, because JJ says it doesn't matter.
To me, if Anthony Davis is healthy, alone, and that's a big ask, but if Anthony Davis is healthy with the LeBron James that we saw this past season, I think you get to the playoffs. And then once you're in the playoffs with a LeBron James, anything can happen. Am I thinking they're going to win the championship? Hell no. But what I'm saying is,
you said that for 6 months. And if there's any lesson to learn from this season, it's that top-heavy rosters just don't work in today's NBA.
I agree with that.
They don't work. The Nets didn't work. The Lakers didn't work.
I agree with that when you're talking championship, not when you're talking about getting to the playoffs. It's a damn shame.
The question was contention.
Well, again, to me, I'm thinking about a LeBron James in the playoffs. Anything is possible if an Anthony Davis is healthy. What's the difference between Anthony Davis and LeBron James, in my estimation? One dude gets ready, another dude stays ready.
Yeah.
LeBron James is always ready. He's in shape now. Whereas Anthony Davis may or may not be. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it's about having a strong enough coach to hold dudes accountable so you can maximize what's around them, and the drama is minimized, because you're not allowed to run amok and just think the way you want to think, feel what you want to feel, and do what you want to do. You got clear delineation. You got management doing their job, and then once the coach has the team, this is my team, move the hell out the way and let me do what I do. They have to have that structure.
Last word.
I'm not disagreeing that they need structure, but I don't think them running amok, as you said, had anything with them being a bad basketball team last year.
It was
a bad roster.
I disagree with
Stephen A.
I'm not saying it wasn't a bad roster.
Stephen
I agree with that.
Outside of those three, see, Taylor Horton Tucker was really bad this year. Okay, Malik Monk was the only young player that played well. Their entire roster, outside of Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James, who admittedly are a bad fit together, was a bunch of guys that haven't been good since 2016. Okay? So it's not about running amok. It's not about having a defensive coach or an offensive coach. They had a top 5 defense with Frank Vogel. They won a championship.
Forgive me for taking an extra minute. Let me remind you.
It's a bad roster.
Let me remind you of
with nowhere to go.
Let me remind you of who you're talking to. You are talking to a guy that covered Allen Iverson, and they had a bunch of parts around him.
It's a different NBA.
Let me finish. I understand that, but listen to where I'm going. My point is, I'm spoiled by that reality in this one respect. You had people around him that did their jobs and were mindful of what they couldn't do because Larry Brown wouldn't allow anything else. You knew what the hell your job was, and you did your job. What LeBron James was surrounded by last year wasn't an absence of talent. There's a whole bunch of people that weren't doing their damn jobs. And for a variety of reasons. And you got to take that into consideration. And if you have that, you never know what you can do, because we've seen LeBron James do more with less.
Stephen A. Smith always chooses his words very carefully, right? So the operative words, strongly consider. Stephen A. Smith never came out and said the Lakers need to trade LeBron James. Strongly consider is like one of those sexy, polarizing things you say that start a conversation. It doesn't mean they should do it, though. And my thing is, when you look at the greats in the game, Keith, from Tim Duncan to Kobe Bryant to MJ to Magic Johnson, like, these guys weren't traded at the end of their career. They left on their terms.
but when you're talking about the Lakers and you mentioning those great players, guess what about those great players that you just mentioned? All homegrown. There is no strong allegiance to LeBron James in the Lakers fan base, in the Lakers ownership group. Yes, he is a rental for this fan base. We appreciate everything that LeBron James has done for the Lakers, but it's not the same. It's not the same as Magic or did you say Tim Duncan?
Hold on,
it's not
Key.
the same.
Key, Kobe
Kareem
Bryant.
was, Shaq was.
Hold on, Max. Kobe Bryant passed away. I just want to remind everybody of this moment, even though Laker fans claim him as a rental. Kobe Bryant passed away. How LeBron James handled that when he delivered that incredible speech. Let's remember that he won them a championship off the year that Kobe Bryant passed away. It was an incredible thing, and how he handled that entire adversity moment within the Lakers organization. I think sometimes we forget about that because we get so lost up in the last couple of years where all this drama surrounding it, like how imperative that was.
It's a good thing to remind Lakers fans, Jay. It's a good thing to remind Lakers fans.
Jay, it is, in all due respect for LeBron James, yes, he is put in a position where he had to be the leader. He had to step up. He is close friends with Kobe Bryant. They was colleagues, so he's going to do all of those sort of things. Doesn't take away from the fact that Laker fan base view this as a rental for the Lakers. He wasn't drafted by the Lakers like a Kobe Bryant, even though Kobe wasn't drafted by him, but he was eventually brought there via trade, which essentially means that he was drafted by him because it was the first team he ever played for, and only team. So when you look at it, it's a little bit different. I understand exactly what you're saying. A great player and everything, but it's just not the same. So I think in the end, if they felt like they can do better, this is why Stephen A. is saying this. Stephen A. ain't just pulling it off the wall, Jay. I mean, the man is dialed into the NBA to a whole nother level. So somebody somewhere is putting this out in the universe. He may be couching his words carefully.